So I want to talk about the recent Oak Bluffs Ralph Lauren campaign, as well as the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad. And I also have some exclusive content coming up for Neptunian members and patrons. So if you're interested, the links to watch are in the description box. So Ralph Lauren recently did a campaign and clothing line celebrating Oak Bluffs, which is a historic Black community on Martha's Vineyard. And they collaborated with alumni from Morehouse and Spelman to create a capsule that basically highlights Black excellence, or what some would call the Black bourgeoisie, and is to celebrate their legacy and the American dream. And they also partnered with a nonprofit that consists of Black women homeowners, and they also posted a short documentary on their YouTube about the history of Oak Bluffs as well. And personally, I think the campaign was executed beautifully. The Black women in the ad are absolutely beautiful, and in my opinion, it's excellent promotion for Black women and Black people in general. Now, I do have my issues with HBCUs and some of the affluent Jack and Jill type Black people. I'm familiar with those circles and they can definitely be problematic, and I'll talk more about that later in the video. But from a marketing standpoint alone, this is great representation. The optics are great. They are much needed in the current promotional climate where the hood rich aesthetic is dominating the media. And I've seen a lot of Black people outraging about this on TikTok, and of course they're saying it's elitist and classist and Eurocentric. But like I said in my video about Black women in luxury a few years ago, the hood rich aesthetic is just as elitist. It is just as Eurocentric. The only difference is that it's ghetto, ratchet, and flashy. But they frequently brag about having more money than other Black people. They flaunt their European designer clothes and cars, and Black women especially adhere to European beauty standards in the hood rich aesthetic as well. Yet we rarely see the Black people who are complaining about this Oak Bluffs ad making think pieces about how elitist and classist the hood rich people are. But as soon as the more refined version of rich Black people show up, suddenly it's elitism and it's not relatable, as if most Black people can relate to the hood rich aesthetic. Most Black people can't relate to having all those designer clothes and luxury cars that the Black entertainers are bragging about. And look, you don't even have to relate to all representation for it to work in your favor. All promotion is not supposed to be relatable. Some of it is supposed to be aspirational. And it's also designed to alter perception. It's similar to the pretty packaging that makes an item look more appealing in the store. And it's so pretty that it makes you want to buy it. And I'm not saying we are objects or products, but good promotion does work similar to that with humans. And good representation can work for Black people in the same way it works for other groups of people if we allow it to. And we stop pushing dysfunctional poverty promotion to the top. And please don't tell me that representation doesn't matter, because if it didn't, y'all wouldn't be pushing for poor people, fat people, the LGBT, and all of the other marginalized groups to have more visibility in the media. I find that y'all only say that representation doesn't matter when it's representation that you cannot relate to. And what some of y'all are also forgetting is that there are Black people who can relate to this Oak Bluffs campaign. These are real people celebrating their real lives in this campaign, just like the Black entertainers do. And like y'all always say, Black people are not a monolith, and it is okay that they be represented because they too are a part of Black America. And there are also other Black people who are very successful, very articulate, well established, that didn't attend an HBCU, and they also fit into this aesthetic, or they identify with it. So this is a lot more relatable to many of us than the hood rich aesthetic. But y'all only accept seeing rich Black people one way, and that is when they are somehow attached to poverty or the struggle, because that is what y'all deem to be quote unquote authentic Blackness. If it doesn't include some type of dysfunction, or what I like to call relatable dysfunction, y'all don't want it. And that is the real issue here. It's not elitism or the Eurocentricity, because every time I look up, y'all are defending Sexy Red and other rich elitist hood Black people. And it's especially interesting to hear the feminists weigh in on this, because Dr. Beverly Guy and Bell Hooks, they went to Martha's Vineyard on a regular basis. And Dr. Beverly said out of her own mouth in the Oak Bluffs documentary that it was a quote unquote runaway for Black academic intellectual people. And she said right in there that there were many feminists that visited on a regular basis. So that tells us that Black feminists are also a part of what we call the Black elite. And they are also elitist in classes, which we already knew that on this channel, but this is why I could never take them seriously when it came to their criticism of Black women in luxury. And Black academia in particular is rife with the isms, elitism, classism, colorism, etc. Yet these intellectual, degreed Black women rarely talk about that, but they had a million think pieces and video essays on Black women in luxury. And that's why I said before, this online dialogue about elitism and Black luxury is a very disingenuous conversation. And it was even worse when Black women in luxury was popular because it was only Black women involved in that trend. Now, I don't see as many think pieces about the Oak Bluffs campaign, but that of course is because it includes Black men. I'm actually seeing a lot more Black men speak out against this representation this time around, particularly the Pookie and Ray Ray type Black men. And it's because they don't like the quote unquote nerdy or preppy Black men getting any shine in the media. They want to keep things how they are. One Black dude even said that he can't relate to the Oak Bluffs ad because where he's from, they would steal and boost Polo Ralph Lauren clothes because they couldn't afford it. And he was going on and on about how this particular ad isn't realistic. And so basically, he's more comfortable with thieves and criminals in the Black community being promoted in the media. Because I guarantee if Ralph Lauren decided to promote these degenerate Pookie rappers in their clothes instead of the Black people from Oak Bluffs, he likely wouldn't have had a complaint. And also, I think that if no Black men were involved at all in this campaign, and it was just more of like Black women in luxury, I think we would hear a lot more complaints from Black women, just like we did a few years ago when Black women in luxury was popular online. Now that Black men are included in the Black luxury promotion, I'm hearing a lot of Black women sounding just like I did 3 years ago when I was defending Black women in luxury. So it's very interesting how a lot more Black women are accepting of classy, refined Black luxury representation when Black men are involved, but not accepting when it's just Black women. So that's something else I took note of. But us over here, we have been wanting to see more of this kind of representation, specifically for unambiguous dark-skinned Black women. So for me, it is very refreshing to see a classier version of Black women, especially being represented by a well-renowned fashion house, especially when you compare it to our dominant promotion. It kind of makes me feel like they're listening to our conversations about corrective promotion and our desire to see more sophisticated, elegant representation of Blackness. So these other corporations, they need to take notes because there is absolutely a market for this. And you know, I feel like what Ralph Lauren is doing in the current climate is brilliant. Instead of leaning into white exclusivity and anti-DEI like a lot of other corporations, Ralph Lauren is just focusing on class and whoever can afford the clothes. Doesn't matter the race. Now, could we say that it still represents a return to conservatism and this kind of understated quiet luxury? Sure, but it's not blatantly racist, which to me, from a business perspective, is very smart, especially when you compare it to what some of these other brands are doing. And that brings us to American Eagle. So American Eagle has ruffled a lot of feathers with their recent fall campaign starring Sydney Sweeney. And in the ad, she did a play on words about wearing good jeans and having good genes, as in genetics. And the ad got a ton of backlash for using eugenics-coded language tied to white, blue-eyed beauty standards because Sydney is a blonde with blue eyes. And the ad seemed to be targeted to white, impressionable teen girls that they know are pretty much going to blindly follow the ad and attempt to look like Sydney. And it's also catering to the white male gaze because she's talking in this seductive, almost baby-like voice. And this ad, of course, also falls in line with the current political climate where white men specifically are trying to gain back the power that they feel they've lost. They're trying to reestablish white patriarchy and the default beauty standard, which is skinny, blonde, blue-eyed, young, male-centered. And that, of course, leads to white women becoming traditional housewives, stay-at-home moms that have all these babies with good genes because their birth rate is low. That is the obvious agenda here, other than to make money, because this ad was also rage bait to get people talking about American Eagle. And unfortunately, it worked. Because let me tell you, I haven't stepped foot into an American Eagle store since I was a teenager. I forgot they even existed. And I was reminded of them again because of this controversy. So this was very intentional, but we also have to remember that the success of rage baiting can often be short-lived, because I did see people saying that American Eagle's stock price went up, but that just means that a lot of men who probably don't even shop at American Eagle are buying up the stock. We actually have to wait and see how this will affect their actual sales over time, because they need women to keep buying from them. And it's not just, a small demographic of women who are outraged by this. It's women of all races, even other white women who don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. So I don't know if this was a good long-term strategy for American Eagle, because most white women don't naturally look like Sydney. Now, on the other hand, this could also be a form of aspirational marketing, like I talk about on this channel, where it encourages white women who don't look like Sydney to look like her. Or like I said, teenage white girls to attempt to live up to the Sydney Sweeney aesthetic. Because let's be real, white women have tried to live up to that ideal in the past. They're still doing that. So that's what I think American Eagle is hoping for. So this could strengthen or create a very strong niche or sector of white women and white supremacist customer base that is loyal to American Eagle. And American Eagle has always been kind of like a very white brand anyway. So it could go either way, and only time will tell. It really just depends on how outraged white women and girls are. And while I understand why women and Black women are upset by this ad, I do wish that Black women in particular would put the energy that they're using to complain about this American Eagle ad into pushing the Ralph Lauren ad, because in my opinion, it's a good counter to the American Eagle campaign. And it's much classier and it's much more refined, but it's like y'all are ignoring it or finding a reason not to like it when it's like, hello, that's the counter to this. And to be honest, if we didn't always shoot down our corrective promotion as Black women, we probably would get more of it. Clearly, there are companies like Ralph Lauren that are willing to help us. They're willing to help us counter the Black poverty promotion. But instead of actually supporting it, we completely shoot it down while simultaneously complaining about the ads from corporations like American Eagle. It's totally counterproductive, in my opinion. Because you have to fight fire with fire. Like ads like the one from American Eagle, they're not going to go away, y'all. So you either need to jump in the game and compete or shut up. And look, if you are of the mindset that all of these companies are racist and you don't think Black people should support any of them at all, well then put more effort into creating your own representation. Because constantly complaining about white people uplifting their own features in a media that they own and control is not going to get us anywhere as Black people. And if they choose to include us like Ralph Lauren did, sure, we definitely accept that, and we need to capitalize off of that as much as possible. Now, can we suggest improvements and adjustments, like wanting to see more Afrocentric beauty and more natural hair and different body types to represent Black luxury? Absolutely. I agree with all of the tweaks that y'all are suggesting. I agree that adjustments can be made because I see the flaws. The representation is definitely not perfect. But throwing the baby out with the bathwater while still complaining about the lack of representation isn't smart. It's just not. Now, speaking of improvements and adjustments, I do like the Oak Bluffs representation, but I still think that we as Black women especially need to really focus on creating our own corrective promotion or pushing for more representation that isn't explicitly tied to Black culture and Black groupthink, and continue to push for multicultural representation for Black women specifically. And I say that because there are still a lot of problematic Black people in the Black excellence community. So when it comes to promotion like this, I think it's important for Black women to not drink the Kool-Aid. And by that, I mean enjoy the promotion, accept it, but please do not fall for this utopian imagery of Black love and Black perfection, especially among what we call the Black elite or the Black bourgeoisie or the Black excellence community. And I say that because I find that these kind of bougie Black people are still very monocultural, and the Black women in particular are still conditioned to be mammies and very Black male identified as well, especially if they attend HBCUs. And listen, I'm not trying to shit on where y'all went to school, but I just have to call it like I see it. We saw how that Black woman who graduated from FAMU a while back, we saw how she posted those naked graduation photos like it was normal. And listen, I got friends that that went to HBCU. So a lot of that same Black dysfunctional mentality, whether it be the poverty mindset, the hypersexuality, the ratchetness, the mammy behavior, that exists in those circles too, even if they don't outwardly show it all the time. The FAMU example is an extreme example, but mileage varies. There's also a lot of colorism and texturism and featureism in those environments. We see this a lot in Black sororities. The men in these environments can also be very anti-Black as well. There's actually Black men in the manosphere who graduated from HBCUs and are full-blown professionals up here on YouTube shitting on Black women. There's also colorist Black women who are HBC alumni online harassing Black women. So all I'm saying is don't let the glamour of this particular ad distract you from how a lot of them think. And I'm saying this because I think it's important for Black women to have a level of detachment from media promotion, especially the kind that we like. But whether we like it or not, I think we should have a healthy level of detachment from it so we don't get caught up in the fantasy. And this is why I am very thankful to have experience with different classes of people of all races, because it helps you see this kind of imagery and not romanticize it and romanticize one group of people and see them for who they are. And so when it comes to this particular form of aspirational Black representation, we need to remember not to romanticize these Black people just because they are professionals, just because they're affluent. Don't put your guard down with them or not vet them just because they're Black and successful. And this especially applies to the men in these circles. I know a lot of other platforms are telling you to go mingle in these Black elite circles to find that unicorn, high-earning Black man. But please don't romanticize them just because they are high-earning and Black, because they can and often do come with issues, just as other Black men do, but those issues show up differently. And I have to remind Black women of that because we tend to give Black men who have degrees and jobs and houses all this praise and worship just because they're not Pookies and Ray Rays. But no, they need to be vetted too. Just like y'all would vet a white man regardless of his socioeconomic status. Because there's a lot of Black women that go on and on and on and on about vetting white men and non-Black men, and we need to vet all men regardless of race. We don't need to put non-Black men on a pedestal. But those same women and platforms will see this Oak Bluffs ad and put Black men on a pedestal just because they have a good job and go to Martha's Vineyard in the summertime. And that's why I'm saying, ladies, don't drink the Kool-Aid. And definitely don't close yourself off to predominantly Black spaces. Even if your family went to an HBCU, that doesn't mean you have to go one just because your family went to one. That doesn't mean you have to delegate yourself to Black spaces only. Explore all of your options. Don't get too caught up in this Black love promotion. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that is all I have to say on this. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments. Also be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.